Imagine a place where all the knowledge in the world was gathered in one place. A place filled not just with scrolls, but with ideas, discoveries, and the voices of civilizations long gone. This was the Library of Alexandria, not just a building, but something far greater. A living center of thought, where scholars questioned the universe, where mathematics, philosophy, and science were pushed to their limits, where ships arrived carrying texts from Egypt, Greece, Persia, and India, each scroll adding another piece to humanity's understanding of itself. For a moment in history, it felt like the world was being understood, like humanity was on the edge of something extraordinary. And then, somehow, it was gone. No clear ending. No single moment we can point to and say, this is when everything was lost. Only fragments of stories, scattered accounts, and centuries of silence. Which leaves us with a question that still lingers to this day. What exactly was lost in the Library of Alexandria? And could it have changed the world forever? Because the truth is, no one really knows what happened. And that is what makes its disappearance one of history's greatest mysteries. The story of the library begins in the city of Alexandria, a city built not just for power, but for legacy. And at the center of that vision was a man named Ptolemy, the first Soter, a former general of Alexander the Great who had taken control of Egypt and wanted to create something that would outlast empires. But this wasn't about monuments or armies. It was about knowledge. His idea was simple, and at the same time, incredibly ambitious. Gather every piece of knowledge in the known world, in one place. And when his son, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, took over, that idea didn't just continue, it expanded. What began as a vision turned into an obsession. Scrolls were no longer just collected, they were pursued. Ships arriving at Alexandria's harbor weren't only bringing goods, they were bringing information. And every manuscript found on board was taken, copied by scribes, and often replaced with a duplicate, while the original was kept. Knowledge in this city was considered more valuable than anything else. And this mission wasn't carried out in isolation. It was connected to the Mauseon, a place dedicated to the Muses, where scholars lived, studied, and shared ideas freely. It wasn't just a library, it was a system. A place where knowledge was collected, examined, and expanded. Where the goal wasn't just to store information, but to understand it completely. No one knows the exact number of scrolls that once filled the Library of Alexandria, but estimates suggest hundreds of thousands, maybe even more. Each one a piece of human thought, carefully written, copied, and preserved in a world where knowledge could easily disappear forever. And what made this place extraordinary wasn't just the quantity, it was the range. Inside those walls were works on astronomy, mapping the stars long before telescopes existed. Texts on medicine, attempting to understand the human body with surprising detail. Philosophies that questioned existence itself, and mathematics that would shape the foundation of logic and science for centuries. This was where minds like Euclid refined the principles of geometry, and where ideas connected to thinkers like Archimedes pushed the limits of what was thought possible. But the library wasn't just a Greek achievement. It was something much larger, a convergence of knowledge from across the known world. Egyptian records, Persian insights, Indian theories, Greek philosophy, all brought together, studied, compared, and expanded in one place. It was, in many ways, the closest thing the ancient world had to a global network of knowledge. And yet, what we know today may only be a fraction of what once existed there. Entire works of literature are gone. Discoveries that may have been recorded have vanished. Ideas that could have changed the course of history may have been lost before they ever had the chance to spread. And that's the unsettling part. We're not just missing information, we're missing possibilities. The first real threat to the Library of Alexandria may not have come from neglect, but from war. In 48 BCE, Julius Caesar found himself trapped in Alexandria, caught in a violent power struggle that quickly turned the city into a battlefield. With enemy forces closing in and the harbor under threat, he made a desperate move. He ordered ships to be set on fire to block the advancing fleet. At first, it was a tactical decision, contained, controlled. But fire has a way of refusing control. The flames spread from ship to ship, then to the docks, and from there, possibly into the city itself. And this is where the story begins to blur. Some ancient accounts claim the fire reached storage areas near the harbor, destroying thousands of scrolls, collections that may have been part of the library's vast holdings. Others suggest the damage went even further, that the flames may have touched the library itself, wiping out a significant portion of its knowledge in a single, catastrophic moment. But not everyone agrees. Some historians argue that the main library stood intact, that what burned were warehouses, not the heart of the institution. And that uncertainty changes everything. Because if the library wasn't completely destroyed that day, then this wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something slower, more dangerous, a weakening, a loss that didn't happen all at once, but in stages. Which raises a question historians still debate. Was Caesar's fire the moment the Library of Alexandria was destroyed, or just the first crack in something that would take centuries to finally disappear? If the fire during Julius Caesar's siege was the first crack, then what followed was something far less dramatic, but far more destructive. The Library of Alexandria didn't collapse in a single moment. It slowly unraveled. As the centuries passed and Egypt became part of the Roman world, political instability began to take its toll. Priorities shifted, resources thinned out, and the steady support that once sustained scholars, scribes, and preservation efforts started to fade. And without that support, even the greatest center of knowledge in the ancient world began to weaken. But it wasn't just politics, it was belief. The Roman Empire was changing, and with the rise of Christianity came growing tension with older pagan traditions. Traditions that institutions like the library were deeply connected to. What had once been a symbol of knowledge and learning was, to some, now seen as part of a fading past. That tension reached a breaking point during the time of Theophilus of Alexandria in the late 4th century, when pagan temples across the city were destroyed, including the Serapeum, a site many historians believe housed part of the library's collection. Whether it still held a significant portion of the original texts is unclear, but whatever remained may have been lost in that moment. And that's what makes the story so unsettling. There was no final scene, no single fire that ended it all. Just years of neglect, conflict, and gradual loss, until one day the Library of Alexandria was no longer there. Not destroyed in an instant, but faded out of existence. As the story of the Library of Alexandria drifts further into uncertainty, something else begins to take its place. Stories, powerful, dramatic, and not always reliable. One of the most famous claims is that the library was destroyed centuries later under the orders of Caliph Umar, after Arab forces captured the city. According to this account, a general asked what should be done with the remaining books, and the answer was stark. If the texts agreed with the Quran, they were unnecessary. If they disagreed, they were dangerous, and in either case, they should be destroyed. It's a story that paints a clear, almost cinematic ending. Scrolls burned, knowledge erased in a single decisive act. But here's the problem. Most historians don't believe it happened that way. The earliest versions of this story appear hundreds of years after the supposed event, with no contemporary evidence to support it. And by that time, many scholars argue the original library had already been gone for generations, which makes the story less of a historical record and more of a legend shaped by politics, belief, and hindsight. And this is where the mystery deepens. Because when you strip away the myths, what you're left with isn't clarity, it's silence. Conflicting accounts, missing records, fragments that don't quite fit together. And maybe that's why the debate never ends, because the truth isn't just unknown, it may be unknowable. What disappeared with the Library of Alexandria wasn't just a collection of scrolls, it was entire worlds of thought, voices that spoke, argued, imagined, and then went silent. Historians believe countless works of literature were lost, including plays by writers whose names we still remember, but whose words are gone forever. Entire stories, tragedies, comedies, epics, erased as if they had never existed. And beyond literature, the loss cuts even deeper. The writings of thinkers like Aristotle, Euclid, and Archimedes shaped the ancient world. But what if what survived is only a fraction of what was once known, studied, and expanded within those walls? There may have been discoveries in science, medicine, and mathematics, ideas recorded, understood, and then lost before they could ever spread beyond Alexandria. Some historians even suggest that humanity may have been set back, not by years, but by centuries, forced to rediscover knowledge that had already been found. And then there's the question that lingers just beneath the surface. What if some of that knowledge was ahead of its time? Theories, inventions, insights that could have changed the course of history, gone before they ever had the chance to shape the future. And that's the part that stays with you. Not just what we lost, but what we never even got the chance to know. The story of the Library of Alexandria isn't just about the past. It's about a warning that still matters today. Knowledge feels permanent now, stored in servers, shared instantly, backed up across the world. But history has already shown us how fragile it really is. What once existed on scrolls, protected by scholars who believed in preserving human thought, was still lost. Not all at once, but slowly. Through neglect, conflict, and change. And when it was gone, it didn't just take information with it. It took possibilities, ideas, and pieces of a story we can never fully recover. That's the weight of it. Not just what was destroyed, but what was never rediscovered. Because in the end, the Library of Alexandria wasn't just a building. It was humanity's memory. And when it disappeared, a part of our past vanished with it forever.